Greetings, this is Tier Nerd, and this time I will be tiering or ranking Final Fantasy games by their how good their music is. So it's a little different ranking, but it's not the game itself, but it's actually the music of the game. And in that I'll also be including maybe like orchestral arrangements and like different like piano albums as well, because those are derivative works, but they're pretty cool. So I definitely recommend some of that classical, video game music. It's really cool. So let's see. Let's start off with Final Fantasy. Let's go in order. So Final Fantasy One. I don't know. I think I'll put it in B tier for now. I mean, I played the Final Fantasy Origins versions, so on PlayStation, and those definitely sound better than the original, Nintendo, the original Nintendo music. And I thought it was decent. I like how they remade some of the battle themes, boss music, all of that. So I thought it was pretty solid. I put it in B tier for now, but that might change. But I'd say it had it as a pretty solid soundtrack. Um, Final Fantasy two, I liked maybe a little bit more. I think I really like the world map theme and the battle theme. The regular battle theme is probably one of my favorites in the entire franchise. I thought Final Fantasy Two had a really good soundtrack, so maybe I'll put an A tier for now. Yeah, I'd say this is probably like high B tier, maybe low A tier here, but it's pretty solid. There's usually like a few soundtracks that stand out. You know, well, most of the time when I play a game, most of the music I'll just be like, yeah, whatever, and then there'll be like a few soundtracks. So I think that's amazing. Well, Final Fantasy Two had definitely some of those really amazing soundtracks. So I think that's a pretty solid entry. Then we have Final Fantasy three. Where did I put it? Right here. Yeah, Final Fantasy three. So Fantasy three's music. I don't know. It's not as memorable to me. I know they have like I know Eternal Wind, the world map theme is like really famous, and oh yeah, I really like the boss theme. I thought it was amazing, and like the final boss theme and all that. Like some of the battle themes are really cool, but actually, this is one of those strange cases where the original Nintendo version actually sounds better. Like if you listen to the DS versions of like the battle music and the boss music and the final boss music, compare that to the Nintendo version. And I would say that it's strangely enough, the NES version actually sounds a little bit better. The NES version actually sounds a little better when it comes to some of the battle music because sometimes when they remake music, they weaken it. They take out like what makes it good and epic, and I've seen that. For a lot of the more powerful soundtracks, they'll take out like whatever makes it good, and they'll make it worse. And I think that kind of happened in the DS version for sure. I'd say the NES, some of the NES tracks are actually better than the DS version in Final Fantasy three's music. Let's see. So I'd say it's still pretty solid though. Yeah, I don't know what's better than Final Fantasy one. They're both kind of like around that level. Let's see. Then we have Final Fantasy four. Final Fantasy four. Should I put it up here? Fantasy four. I mean, it has some good, memorable music for me. But like, I mean, it's for me as a game. For me, it's S tier. The music in Final Fantasy four seemed a little more average to me compared to other Final Fantasy games. It was still solid though. There's still quite a few memorable soundtracks, like within the Giant, and I really like the final boss music. The battle theme and the boss theme I just thought were pretty average. I don't never really saw why they were that amazing or great. So yeah, it's got some memorable soundtracks, but I think I'll put it maybe around here. I think it's solid to. I think it's safe to put it around here. Um, let's see. So the original Final Fantasy, I'm starting to think if I should move it up above here. I don't know. I'd say okay, they're both down there. Yeah. See, Final Fantasy five. Final Fantasy five has some good soundtracks, but to me, it was mostly overrated. Um, yeah, there's definitely some memorable soundtracks, but I would say maybe a little bit on the overrated side. Like the battle on the bridge, the Gilgamesh's battle theme. To me, that's very overrated. I don't really think it's that great of a piece. There's so much better music from Final Fantasy games than the Gilgamesh's battle theme. And there's some great, like the actual regular boss theme is way better. Um, the final boss theme, and just there's some great there's some good pieces, but not too many things that are like super memorable. So I'll put a Final Fantasy V around there. Final Fantasy VI. I think its music's a bit better, like Atma's battle theme, and you got Dancing Mad, obviously. You got some really good works here. So a lot of things that I just forget about that are like filler, but there's also some really good. There's quite a few famous, memorable works in Final Fantasy VI's music, so I think it's safe to put it up here. Still wondering if Final Fantasy II should be up this high. Um, Relative to the whole soundtrack, yeah, I don't know. Let's put it here, maybe here. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to rank these because it's mostly just a few amazing pieces that I'm grading, and most things I forget. But yeah, I think maybe around here. I think they're more like A tier in terms of the music. Um, then we have Final Fantasy VII, which I left here. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII. So Final Fantasy VII's music is as a game, Final Fantasy VII is kind of average for me. But this is one of those few games where I think the music is actually like a really strong point of the game. Like, so Final Fantasy VII to me, I think I would put upper A tier for the music because um, it's just that like it's actually got some really good like melancholy pieces, like a lot of it. Like Final Fantasy VII's like their music is one of those where I'll just like forget about it, and I'll accidentally like turn it on, or like on YouTube, I'm like, oh yeah, let's try Final Fantasy VII, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, it's like really good. So like Final Fantasy VII has really good music. Like I forget about it. But when I do hear it, I'm like, I remember every time, like, oh yeah, FF7 actually has really good music. So there's a lot of good themes, a lot of very memorable ones. It's got a good atmosphere. Like every game has its own like atmosphere for the music, and Seven's got this like melancholy atmosphere to a lot of its themes, but they're really good. A lot of it, like whether it's Genova's battle theme and One Winged Angel. I think it's been overplayed and overdone, but One Winged Angel is actually a good piece. Like I do consider FF's like One Winged Angel to be an amazing piece of music. It's just that it's been overplayed, obviously. And so FF7 I think is pretty solid. FF8, um, FF8 actually has a lot of really good battle themes, like the Blue Fields, the battle theme. The world map theme is one of my favorites. FF7's world map theme, by the way, is also really amazing. Yeah, they both have amazing world map themes, 7 and 8, and um, actual the battle music's pretty good. There's some good themes. Like I don't know, I can't really decide if 7 or 8 is good. They're both pretty. They're up there. They're both up there. Like they have more. 7 and 8 have more memorable themes for me than a lot of the other games. But yeah, eight's got solid music. I'd probably put 7 a little higher though. As a game, 8 is like S tier for me. But the music, doesn't quite live up to it's to the standards. I'd say 7 probably has better music. Then we got FF9, which I put right there, FF9. So FF9 also has pretty solid music. Um, Actually, in fact, it's Uematsu's favorite soundtrack. At the time, he gave an interview. I don't know if his opinions changed, but at the time he said, "Yeah, Final Fantasy IX, that's my favorite soundtrack." Like he really enjoyed composing it, and it's a very long soundtrack too. I think at the time it was like the longest soundtrack, and there was a lot of like extra remixes of themes that didn't get into the game, and there was like an extra CD released with all the music and everything. It was a very very long soundtrack. Um, so FF9, I think is solid. There's some like the boss theme is probably one of my favorites in the series, and it's got a lot of other good themes. I don't know where to put it. If I would put it above, like I mean, these three probably upper tier. These probably a little more like these are probably upper A tier. These are lower A tier. These are probably more in the B tier category. So yeah, like upper B tier right here. So I don't know if I should put nine above eight or not. Um, they're all pretty. I think nine might go above eight. It's really just a few. Like there's a good number, like few soundtracks that just stand out about everything else that I'm really basing all of this off of. So seven, nine, and eight. I think I'll put them like in this order. But yeah, they're upper A tier. Notice I'm not really giving S tier to anything yet. Um, so now FF10. FF10's also got a really solid soundtrack. It's very good ambient, like atmospheric music. Like you can just play it in the background, and especially like piano soundtracks. Yeah, like all of these like piano arrangements of this stuff's usually really good. I don't know. Maybe I will give 10 S tier for music. Um, the battle theme's kind of generic. Like I actually think the battle theme is one of the most generic pieces. Yeah, some great games have very weak battle themes. Like Chrono Trigger has the same problem too. Chrono Trigger has good music and is a great game, but the battle theme's very generic. FF10 also has a very generic battle theme. Like a lot of these, almost every other Final Fantasy here has I would say, a better battle theme than FF10's. FF10's battle theme is just not that great. But everything else, like the boss theme, final boss theme, all the other boss themes, they're great. It's just the generic battle theme, and a lot of the location themes and everything. Overall, I'd say FF10 soundtrack is pretty solid. I think it might be safe to give it like a low S tier. I think yeah, it's pretty solid. Like it's got some good soundtracks. I especially like Masashi Hamauzu's and I forget the name of the composer that did it. I like their contribution to FF10. I think they did a really good job. The other composers that besides them, like they think they did a really good job in FF10, and I think it really showed. So I really and then you got Xanarkand and you got all these like famous pieces. Like seven and in six. There's a lot of famous pieces among Final Fantasy fans. So 10 solid. I think I'd maybe give it like lower S tier, but I think 10 has a very very solid soundtrack overall. Because it's not just a few pieces. Like a lot of these games, it'll just be like a few pieces that I'm like, oh yeah, they're really good. 10, I think, has probably like more of those. Like there's more of those pieces that I think are really good, which is why I'm giving it S tier. Because I'm kind of picky, so 10 is more my style of music. Then we got 11. So I'm going to start with the mainstream ones, and then we'll go to the spin. Actually, let's do 10 too. Yeah, let's do 10 too. So 10 2, average. Like 10 2, the soundtrack didn't really stand out to me, to be honest. Yeah, actually, yeah, it's got some of that modern style. I think like this is probably around the time like 10-2 and 13-2 and around later where they tried to start modernizing the music, and it kind of lost its like classical touch, and they try to go for more a pop style, and it just doesn't work. Like by the way, like I like Ten's music, but Otherworld, I don't think Otherworld's a great piece of music. Like it's just no, like that's not Final Fantasy music. So 10-2, yeah, it's got some good themes, but nothing too memorable. Like I hardly remember 10-2 soundtrack. Like it's just yeah, it's kind of yeah, it just seemed kind of generic, which is why I'm gonna rank it like low B tier probably. It's okay, it's not awful, but it is kind of generic. So I'll probably put it down here. Let's see. Then we got 11. Now 11 to me is S tier. Like I'm just letting you know, like this is probably the top soundtrack. Like I didn't play 11 until a few years ago, just trying it out, just because it's an MMO. But 11 has a very very solid soundtrack. And especially the piano arrangements. Definitely check out those. Those are amazing. Um, 11 has this atmosphere. Like almost every track is something I like. Um, Very atmospheric music. It's epic, but they don't go overboard. Like it's very hard to explain, but Eleven's music's like this perfect balance of like calmness and just power and energy. Like it's just this perfect balanced music, and it's just very chill. Yeah, and at the same time, it's like just very very chill. Like Eleven's music is probably the best. Yeah, I'd say out of all these soundtracks, Eleven's overall top notch here. I'd say 11 and Saga Frontier 2. Those are my top soundtracks, I think, overall. Like they're just consistently across the board, just amazing. So yeah, 11 is S tier. Yeah, despite being an MMO, hard like not every Final Fantasy's played, but at least the music, like even before I played the game, I listened to some of the music and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. Then I played the game and I was like, oh, okay, it's more amazing. Okay, then we got 12. So 12, the game I gave like a C tier, but the music is solid. Like Hitoshi Sakamoto, like he can compose. Like he's a good composer. 12's got solid music, probably one of the better soundtracks. A lot of there's a lot of dungeon themes because it's a long game, lots of dungeons. And all the battle themes and all that, like it's solid. Like it's solid. Like everything is boss themes. Sometimes it's a little over the top epic, but I think it's still solid. I don't know if it's as high as 10, but I don't know. It might be fair to give 12 an S tier because like this is just music I can leave in the background and listen to, and it's just good. Like it's just solid, very 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 solid soundtrack. So yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe It's kind of strange, but I'm actually ranking the newer games higher somehow. But yeah, 12's pretty solid. So it's strange. I'm actually ranking the newer games. I'm giving them better ratings. Um, then we got 13. 13. Yeah, I really like 13's music. Like seriously, the battle themes are good. Boss themes are good. The background music, not all of them, but like very good. Like 12. See, the thing is, 12, 13 are very good for background music. Like you can just leave them on and listen. It's like, oh, everything's good. Like you just yeah, they're you could just keep listening to it. So I don't know if I'd rank 13 higher than 12. Maybe higher than 10. I don't know. Like um, 12, 13. I might put it up here. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Like 13's got some great soundtracks, like really epic stuff. Like Hamuz is a good composer. Which strange, and Saga Frontier 2 was also composed by him. So I generally think he's a really good composer. Um, and let's see, I could be getting my facts wrong, but I think the composer for Final Fantasy 11 also composed for Final Fantasy 10. I could be getting my facts wrong. My mom want to fact check that, but anyway, I think there is some kind of correlation here between my favorite music and what people are composing them. So 13's I think solid. So I'm starting to think if I'm being too mean to all of these games, but they really are solid. Um, so yeah. Let's see what else. Yeah, now that I think about it, maybe I should just bump S7 up to S tier, like lower S tier. Like it deserves it. Definitely deserves it. So I think 7 I'd put in S tier. Um, let's see. Then we got let's try 13.2. Okay, now 13.2, unlike 13.2 is probably the worst soundtrack overall. Like it's got a few good pieces that I think are amazing, but so many a lot of the vocal pieces are all, like the Historia Crux theme. That's the only good vocal piece probably in the whole game. Every other vocal piece is awful. Like they just ruin it. Like this is easily the worst. This is like 13 is one of the best. 13.2 is actually one of the worst soundtracks in the whole series. Like this is an S tier soundtrack. This is not what when I think of Final Fantasy music and good music, this is not what I think about. Like 13.2 has just got a lot of that trash modern vocal stuff. Like it's just awful. It just it kind of did ruin the experience a bit. A lot of the music just doesn't go. Like I don't know what they were aiming for with the music direction in this game. It's not good. They should have just gone with a more traditional method. It would have been amazing. So there's a few good soundtracks that stand out above it. Most are still kind of generic, but there's also a few really trashy ones, especially for boss themes, which is really annoying. The battle themes can be pretty cool. They're a little modern, but they throw in some cool violin in there and all. So it's kind of hard to judge it. But 13, I'd probably give it like a C plus. This is a C plus, whereas 10.2, I'd give it a B minus. So yeah, the spin-offs generally don't have good like music because they just I don't know, they get some I don't know. They're like low budget games. That's probably why. I don't know. They have like they're spin-offs. Lightning Returns. Lightning Returns is kind of hard to judge. Like I don't like it as much as 13. It's got a weird sense of me. I definitely better than 13 too. Lightning Returns has better music than 13 too. Um, they just combined all the music from 13, 13 2, and Lightning Returns, and so Lightning Returns has a huge soundtrack because of that. But then it's also got its own new pieces, and those were great. Those were good, solid pieces to listen to. So I think 13, Lightning Returns, probably not quite S tier. It's got some good stuff, maybe like upper A tier. I don't know if I'd put it higher than 9 or 8. Um, like it's at least here, I think. I think it's at least somewhere in the middle of A tier. It's still a solid soundtrack, maybe just not as memorable as some other games. Yeah, I'm starting to think if I should put like 6 or 2 or 4 higher now. Um, but yeah, the older games, like I mean, they're good. It's just like I think it's mostly nostalgia for why I like. It's just a few themes I just remember above all else. But I guess like starting around 7, I think the music is very, very memorable. Yeah, because usually it's just a few pieces, like FF2. Just a few pieces that stand out to me that I'm like, oh, this is really good. But the newer games, I think there's like more. There's like more pieces of music that stand out and are memorable to me. So let's see, we got that. Okay, then we're just getting into the. Oh yeah, I totally skipped like FF14. Oh yeah, FF14. FF14. I haven't played much of FF14. I think I played like 13 hours of it. I mean, like 30 hours. Yeah, like 30 hours of the demo and all that. And the music's solid. Like I listened to some of the orchestral stuff. I listened to some of its music, like some of the boss themes for the summons, and I thought they were good. Like what I heard of it, like um, I just can't really judge it much because I haven't played it that much. I don't know if it's fair to put it above, maybe upper B tier, lower A tier. I don't know. I can't. It's kind of hard to judge it because I haven't, I haven't played it as much. I've experienced FF15. I haven't like I what I did play of it. I mean, I have heard like a lot of the music from it. Some of it's cool. A lot of it, some of it's just over the top epic. Like it's just overkill. Um, but FF15, I think, has probably solid music. The game I thought was not that good. Like what I've played of the game, the few hours I played of it, it was like D tier, maybe C tier. But the music itself's probably solid. Um, Maybe higher than 14's music, probably. Like I can't. It's kind of hard to judge at this point. Like my upper tiers, like I'm pretty sure about my upper tiers, but my middle tier here, I'm not. It's kind of hard for me to decide. Like what is upper A tier, like lower A tier, high B tier. Like it's kind of hard for me to judge them right there. My upper ones, I'm pretty confident in though, and the worst ones I'm confident in. So it's kind of hard to judge, but I think 15 maybe like upper B tier probably. And let's see, we got a few others. So we got Dissidia. Now Dissidia, I think, is like one of the best soundtracks because it takes like the battle themes, boss themes, and like the music from like the first 10 games and just like remixes them, and sometimes they're good remixes, sometimes they're not as good, but I just liked like it just took all my favorite pieces and just jumped them together. So that's why the Cydia soundtrack is like it's sort of like cheating. They just take the best music out of all of these games and put them together. So um so that's why it ends up being like one of the top soundtracks because Dissidia just cheats. It just takes the best, like what I consider some of the best music from all the games, puts them together, and yeah, that's why you have a good, solid soundtrack. So I think I don't know, maybe around here, but yeah, that's why Dissidia would get an S tier soundtrack because it just cheats basically. Um, then we got Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics is solid. It's a really solid soundtrack. This is probably another S tier. They take like I mean, there's just so many battle themes. Like this is Hitoshi Sakamoto again. Well, this is the same composer of Final Fantasy 12, and he basically there's like 15, maybe 20 even battle themes. Like there's so many different battle themes, and they're all epic. Like the battle on the bridge theme from this game, it's way better than Gilgamesh's. Like Gilgamesh is Battle on the Bridge from FF5 isn't that great. The Battle on the Bridge from Final Fantasy Tactics sounds completely different. That's a much better Battle on the Bridge theme. It has almost the same title, but the Final Fantasy Tactics version, if you know that's it's better than the one everyone then than the Gilgamesh battle theme everybody thinks is great for some reason. Final Fantasy Tactics is just it has a really good soundtrack overall. Very epic. It just goes with the atmosphere of the game, the story, everything. Um, I like probably almost every soundtrack in the game. Like there's some that are like they're generic, but very solid. I mean, if we're looking at still, I know 13 just has a lot of those really epic pieces. 10 does too. Like it's kind of hard to judge. Like there really are like these really are top tier. It's kind of hard to judge them where. But Tactics, I forget about Tactics soundtrack, kind of like with FF7s, I'll forget about it. But when I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, I mean, like Tactics has a lot of really solid, a lot of really, really solid battle themes in the game. So I think it's safe to put it around here. Um, yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics. I'd say very solid. Yeah, I'd say a very, very solid soundtrack overall. Let's see. I'm starting to think, should I put 10 higher? Like, it's kind of really, really hard to judge. Like, all of these games are like really high up there. Um, so I'm trying to think, should 7 be higher than 12? You know what? 7 should be higher than 12. Yeah, let's do that. And then is it higher than 10? I don't know. Tactics. You know what? Let's do this. I think this is probably more fair. Yeah, let's do all that. I'll probably bump it down a little bit. Um, so Fantasy Four After Years. It just takes the best. Like it just takes Final Fantasy Four music, adds a few pieces. I guess it's good. I don't know. Maybe I'll just put it right below Final Fantasy Four. It really is hard to judge. Like I haven't played much of it. Um, so yeah, pretty much my S tier and my upper A tier, I'm solid with. Everything else after that, it's really hard to judge. They're just they've got their good pieces, but they're just not as memorable. That's basically what it is. The games at the bottom, they're just not as memorable. Mystic Quest, Mystic Quest soundtrack's definitely overrated. Like C tier, maybe upper C tier, lower B tier. Like I don't really see what's so great about it. It's got like one or two good themes that stand out, and that's about it. Like nothing too good about it. So and by the way, like I did say 13-2's music was bad, but there are still some good ones. Like Caius' theme is amazing. A lot of the final boss themes are really good. Like there some of the world, some of the dungeon music's good, some of the place it's good, but like overall, like there's just too many bad pieces that spoil the experience for 13-2. And Mystic Quest just is kind of generic, I think, as far as the music's concerned. Maybe I should put it lower. Yeah, Mystic Quest is kind of generic actually. Um, Tactics Advance, they're like the final boss theme I really like. A lot of the music, there's some of it's good, some of it's a bit kiddie. Um, yeah, this is not a soundtrack I particularly remember very well. Um, so maybe it's higher than After Years. Maybe it's around there. Yeah, definitely not something I remember much. Yeah, by the way, yeah, I'm trying to remember like some of these games like have really good music and parts. Like FF4 has a good world map theme, so I don't know. Like I'm starting to think if I'm being too harsh for some of these games. Um, let's see. So I'm pretty much done. I'm just gonna see if I want to change any of these positions here. Like FF15 and 14, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I should rank them up somehow. Um, yeah, I just haven't played them enough, basically, 14, 15, to get a good feel for the whole soundtrack, which is why I'm putting them over here. Um, 5, 1, and 3. Yeah, these soundtracks, I guess I just forget about them. Like 5, I mean, they all have their good pieces. Like they all have a few solid, really memorable pieces. 2, 4, and 6 have a bit more of those, and then the rest I just have basically like every Final Fantasy game had more and more pieces. Over time the soundtracks got longer and longer, and they used better. The sound quality got better and everything. I think that, and they were able to do more, which is why I think the upper games are probably higher on the list. Of course, more modern isn't always good. Like 13-2 is a good example of that. Just because it's more modern doesn't mean it's better. Um, But yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Like after years, yeah, I kind of forget about. I don't know. Maybe this should be like down here because I don't actually remember like the music from here. Tactics Advance is at least a little bit more memorable. Um, but once again, not that memorable. Like I don't know, like these games that aren't very memorable, should I even be putting them up here? Like um, Tactics probably better than 3 or 1. Yeah, I'm trying to think if they really are better. Honestly, Tactics Advance, I just forget the music to be honest. So maybe I should put it down there. 3, 1, and 5, I remember a little better. 2, 4, and 6 are up here. Yeah, I think this is pretty. Yeah, I think I'll leave it like this. I think I can't think of anywhere else. So yeah, so I put quite a few in S tier. I'm actually surprised. I mean, 11 is like the S plus tier. 11 is probably the S plus tier. The rest of these are like, they're still these are very solid. Like these are probably like the tops. They have more. They have a bigger part of the soundtrack that I actually would listen to, and you could just leave on like 12 and 13 are great for just leaving on the background. Like I would say 10, 12, and 13. You could just leave in the background and just kind of have it play, and it's just amazing. They're good for like really good for background music. And yeah, 11 also. Yeah, 11 also. They really learn the whole atmosphere apart. Um, so yeah, definitely yes. So these are great. Also, like I would recommend orchestral arrangements or piano arrangements of a lot of these really good, especially the FF11 ones. Um, sometimes sometimes they ruin it with the piano arrangements, but a lot of times it is an improvement. So yeah, it's a pretty long video, but yeah. So I think I'm gonna start hearing Final Fantasy music. So yeah, stay tuned for more.